Hey everybody, this is Brianna Rudder, and in this hair tutorial, I am going to teach you how to do a lace frontal sew-in step-by-step for beginners. The hair I am wearing is from Hihair, and I installed a 20-inch frontal and 3 24-inch bundles of Brazilian virgin hair in the texture Deep Wave from hihair.com. If you want to get this beautiful hair, click the link in my description to get this hair from Hihair. So now let's get started. So really quick, I'm going to show you an unboxing of my Hihair extensions that I received from them. And this is a first impression look of how the hair was when I received it. So right now, I'm opening it for the first time to show you how the frontal looks. And I ordered the Deep Wave frontal in Brazilian virgin hair in the length 20 inches. Now, the first package that you see on top is the actual frontal. And this is in 20 inches, and this is their Deep Wave frontal. This is how the back of the lace looks as well as the hairline. So we're gonna do a little bit of customization on the hairline so I can show you how to get your most natural appearance, but this is also the other materials that they sent to show off their textures and colors that they sell on their website, so that way you can order pretty much any hair that you want. Now this is how the bundle looks, also fresh out the package, and it has its netting attached so that way it can keep the hair very tame and neat while it's on its way to being delivered to you, so that way I can show you how beautiful this texture looks. So this is how it looks with its netting, so that way it can keep the hair very neat and frizz free while it's on its way to you. I removed the netting to show you how the texture looks to the naked eye, and this is how their actual wefts looks, which are very strong and neat. And as you can see, this is how the ends of the hair look as well. Now it's time for me to show you how to customize a lace frontal. And I noticed that when I pulled it fresh out the package, that the hairline was just a little bit too full for my taste. But for some other women, it may work very well for them. But for me, I noticed I just need to do a little bit of plucking. So I'm going to be using wig pins to make sure to stick the actual frontal down to the hairline. And I'm showing you a really slow speed of how I like to pull the hair out of the lace. I don't add any water most of the time when I'm pulling. It just depends on how the hair texture feels in my hands. So I could tell that I didn't really need to spray any water when I'm doing it. And I've only plucked about a little bit of hair on one side. And as you can see, I didn't pull off a lot of hair. Now, it may look like a lot of hair once you're done plucking your hairline because curly hair has a lot of volume. But as you can tell, if you take your time and you just go through your sections and pull it back to see how realistic it looks, you'll be able to create a very natural hairline for your taste. Now, I highly suggest that if you want to create a different look with your lace, that you can go ahead and bleach the lace. But for me, I didn't want to actually bleach it because I wanted to make this very beginner friendly for most of you who are watching. Now, some of you may already know how to bleach your lace, and that's fine. I will show it in a future tutorial, but I like to stick to beginner friendly looks so that way it allows for you not to have much error, because I don't want you to get your frontal and you over bleach it and you try to color it again and it just turns out to a big mess. So you don't always have to bleach your frontal for a natural look, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. So right now you're seeing me just putting a little bit of gel and water on the hairline so that way I can mold it for my best look. So once I finish molding it with gel, this is the end result, and as you can tell, it looks very natural and realistic. I cannot wait to install this frontal to show you how I do it when I'm actually doing a frontal sew-in. So now I'm using a actual hair shear, and I'm making sure to cut a little bit of baby hairs near certain areas of the hairline so that I can make it look a little bit more natural for my taste. So this is how the actual frontal looks up close, and I'm going to show you another look while going through the front of the hairline as well as the back. As you can tell, it looks extremely natural. So if you follow my tips, by just pulling on a little bit of hairs at a time throughout your hairline, you will create your most natural looking frontal. So now this is how the texture looks, and I'm going to go ahead and begin installing it. But first, I'm going to show you my braid pattern. My braid pattern is extremely simple. All I do is I braid small braids going straight to the back, and I loop one braid into another at the back of my head so that way I can spread the bulk of my hair. Right before I'm sewing down my frontal, I like to put it into position where I want it to be first, and then I like to use my hair clips to secure it in place. But before I do that, I'm measuring it around my hairline to see if I need to trim off any excess lace, which I need to do. So I'm just using my clips to make sure to hold the back of my lace in place so that it does not move. I want to make sure that I have a perfect fit before I cut off the beginning of my lace. So those clips at the very back is extremely important so that it doesn't shift as you're lining it up to your hairline. hairline. And if you like that tip that I just gave, give me a big thumbs up. Also, if you've watched this far, I've been having secret conversations in my comment sections that I want you to be a part of. So all you have to do is leave your comment on my pinned comment at the very top of my comment section, because I want to know your thoughts. So join in on our discussion so that you can let me know what you think. And make sure to reply to someone else's comment too, so that we can keep the discussion going. So as you can see here, I'm making sure to cut about 1/4 of an inch away from the lace of my frontal on the hairline of it. So that way I can go back in and further cut off any lace if I need to. And I like to leave a little extra lace usually around the area where my sideburns would be. And as you can tell, this is how it looks. So once I put it back into position, I noticed that I needed to remove just a little bit more lace. So make sure to take your time on this part, because you can remove lace, but you can't bring it back. So only cut off a little bit at a time, even if it takes you a little longer. But you want to make sure that you have a great fit, so that way it looks very natural on your hairline. It is so important when you're working with lace that you make sure to just make tiny little changes, so that way it can give you your most natural and realistic appearance as you see here. So now this is all the lace that I've cut off. Literally, that's it. I just cut off little bits and pieces that were near my ears, and this is the end result of how much I actually removed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually sew both sides of my frontal right before I begin sewing my extensions. Now normally what I like to do is I always like to sew in all of my bundles, and then I like to sew in my lace frontal or lace closure at the very end. But I wanted to do this a little bit different to see the type of effect that I would create. But next time when I do this, I'll definitely sew most of my bundles first. Now I just noticed that I have a slight preference on how I like to actually do my process when I'm sewing my extensions, but everyone is different. This is a beginner friendly tutorial to show you how to do it, to make sure that you have the same results every single time. So all the hacks and tricks that I'm showing you here, you can definitely do this on your own hair, just like you see me doing with my hair. So I like to secure that point with about 2 to 3 knots on both sides. So really quick, as I finish that last knot, I'm going to show you how your needles should look right before you begin sewing in your bundles. So I tighten it up by separating the thread, and now I'm going to show you, this is how you want to look at this point. You want 2 needles attached to both sides of your head, so that way you can sew an even distribution on both sides, making sure to go back and forth and slightly pressing down your lace as you sew it, so that way you're not gathering too much of the bulk at the middle. So it helps to distribute some of the actual area of the lace. As you're sewing your frontal, you will know exactly what I mean. The back of your frontal, when you actually sew it, will have little tiny wrinkles, because the back is usually a little longer than that shape of your head. So you want to make sure that you're going back and forth on both sides of your frontal at the very back when stitching, so that way the distribution of the lace is very even. As you can see, when I'm doing my stitching technique, I like to wrap the thread around my fingers twice and pull the needle through, or I like to wrap the needle around the thread twice and pull the needle through. It creates the same exact effect. And as you can see at the very back of my frontal, there are very tiny little wrinkles, and that's because you want to slowly gather the pieces together to make sure it's very flat and even after you sew. And this is how it looks right before I begin sewing in my bundles. So now we're going to start off with the first bundle that I'm going to stitch at the very back of my hairline, making sure to do 1 row at the back, and then I'm going to do 2 rows throughout the actual hair, and then I'm going to do 1 row right at the point where I do my last section when sewing my frontal. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. We're going to start off with 1 weft, 1 row of weft that you see here. So after attaching the needle and thread to the weft, I'm then going to make sure to attach the weft to my actual braid pattern. Now if you wanted to, after you sewed your frontal, you could have sewn down a net. It just depends on how big your braids are, how long you're gonna wear this style, as well as how neat and non-frizzy that your natural hair is. If your natural hair tends to get a lot frizzy, I highly suggest that you sew down a net, so that way it can prevent you from having breakage. I don't get as much frizz usually, and if I braid my braids small, I definitely don't need a net. Now as you can see, I attached the end of the first bundle, so that way once I attached it and then I'm doing the fold over back around, you can see that now I have 2 rows of weft. This is my secret trick, so don't go around telling everybody how I be pulling off my weaves, okay? No, I'm just kidding. You can tell everybody. This is such a cool trick that I like to do when sewing in my bundles for fullness. So now as you see here, I'm just running my fingers through the hair, and I literally just had one little strand from my first bundle. And I know, yes, this is one bundle and it's extremely full. So as you can tell, you don't have any shedding whatsoever with this Hihair. And now this is how the front of my frontal looks. And I'm just making sure to pull it down into position so that you can have an idea of how it's going to look. As you're actually sewing your bundles, make sure to keep readjusting your frontal so that way it's exactly where you want it to be. Now when I sew my hair, I notice that my hair tends to get just a little bit tighter as I'm sewing each bundle. So for me, next time when I do this style, I'm gonna actually sew in most of my bundles and then sew my frontal. And look, that little bit of hair didn't quite make it out of 3 bundles of hair. I know that's crazy, ain't it? So now I'm gonna use Got To Be Glue hair gel and Got To Be Glue hair spray to mold down the front of my frontal. Now, there's another little trick you can do is you can actually sew in a nude cap at the very front of your hairline, which I'll show you how to do that another time. But for the sake of making this extremely easy, I didn't want to do it on this tutorial. So I'm showing you that you want to put a thin application of hair gel on your hairline, and then you want to spray a thin application of Got To Be Glued as well. So you want to give it a good shake. Okay, you want to make sure it's all shooken up right before you actually spray down your hairline, and make it tacky by using your blow dryer on a low heat setting. So now I'm just making sure to smooth that right on top of the gel. It just helps to make it extremely sticky, and it makes your frontal last literally almost forever. So very slowly, I'm just going over the hairline on a low heat setting, and I'm going to make sure to mold down the front first. So once I actually press it into the glue itself, I'm going to use my hands to also position it on the other side. Make sure that it's tacky, because if it's not tacky, it will lift. So if it lifts, that's how you know you didn't blow dry it long enough. And don't worry, if you make any little mistakes, you can always go back with a little bit of water to clean up any glue that's dried, or you can apply another thin application of glue and spray, so that way you can actually remold. And I'm sorry if I keep saying glue. The name of the product is Got To Be Glue, but it's hair gel. I never suggest that you use hair glue on your hairline, because it's very, very damaging and it's pretty hard to get that stuff off. So use hair gel because it's really easy to get off. So really quick, I just parted throughout my frontal to show you how natural it looks. Ladies, I'm telling you, this looks like real scalp, and I did not put any makeup underneath. I didn't put a cap underneath or anything. That's how my hairline looks when I parted it on the parts of my braids. So after I finished blow drying my hair, I went ahead and straightened it with a flat iron, and as you can tell, this hair is pretty big. So I'm running my fingers once through again to show you literally absolutely no shedding whatsoever. And I absolutely love the results I created with my frontal. So thank y'all so much for watching my frontal sewing for beginners. Give me a thumbs up and comment below what hair tutorials you want me to do next. Click the bell for notifications so that YouTube will notify you when I post new tutorials, because some of y'all say, hey, I didn't see your last tutorial. Well, you gotta make sure to click the bell, okay? And if not, be sure to be following me on my social media if you don't want to miss any of my new uploads. Now, I will catch y'all in my next video, okay? So until then, I'll check y'all next time.